It wasn't simply normal in the beginning. It was fantastic. I knew it as soon as the bus reached the neighborhood. As we passed all the roads with the coffee shops and streets so narrow, I thought we might get stuck. The apartment I looked at was rather small, but enough for me and most importantly, cheap. My workplace was only a 20-minute bike ride away, but I would never go there. Everything seemed right, and I immediately signed the contract. I moved in a week later. The best argument was that it felt like home. I'd recently gone through a rough breakup and some other stuff. I needed a fresh start, and this was the perfect place for it. This city had around 1 million residents, but the neighborhood made you feel like you were in a small town or village even. Very rustic and charming, and with all sorts of quaint traditions that my neighbor Linda would teach me. The apartment came furnished, so I only had to carry in some boxes, which I decided to do on my own. I knew it was time for me to become independent. Linda greeted me as I walked in and took the box I was holding from my hands. "Oh, you don't need to do that. I got it." I smiled at the old lady.
Nonsense. We are neighbors and neighbors help each other. I'm not rotten yet, dear.
Oh no, I didn't mean... I paused and smiled instead. If she wanted to help, I'd let her help. Having a good relationship with your neighbors is always important, as they can make your life hell if they want to. Besides, she stopped helping after the first box. She sat down at the kitchen table and watched me carry the rest in. After I brought in the kitchen boxes, I made us some tea. Moving my boxes to the second floor took me less than an hour, so I sat with her and chatted some more. That's when she told me about the first thing I had to do in the new neighborhood.
All right, listen, dear. After you've settled in a bit, you get a long branch from a tree. You can buy it in one of our flower shops or get a fallen one from a real tree. After you remove all the leaves, you write your name on it and glue the branch to the door. The neighbors who wish to do so will write you little letters or glue small presents to the branch.
I'd never heard of anything like it, but it sounded sweet. After walking through the streets for a day, finding a grocery store, a pharmacy, and of course the flower shop, I noticed a few things. For example, many of the houses had at least one window with black glass. It made little sense to me. Why not simply use a curtain? But I would ask Linda about it later. Everyone was insanely friendly. People waved at me and smiled as soon as they saw me. A young woman with a little boy in her arm even came up to me and asked if I'd put up my branch yet, as she had a present for me. "How do you know?" I started asking, and she immediately interrupted me.
"Oh, I'm a friend of Linda's and, well, word travels fast here."
I smiled. "Well, you don't need to get me anything. I already feel very welcome. Everyone is so nice." My name is Mara, by the way. I extended my arm to shake her hand.
"Oh, I know."
She looked at my open hand for a moment, but didn't reach for it.
"You know, we have another new neighbor just on this street, a young gentleman named Julian."
She pointed at an old, narrow house across from us with a branch taped to its door.
"I should get going. My other son is home alone. It was lovely to meet you, Myra. Welcome again."
I decided to have a look at the new guy's branch to get an idea of what I was to expect. People had glued some notes on it. Some said welcome, or nice to have you here. Others were more strange. Count yourself lucky. Welcome to hell. I reached for some of the presents when my hands touched something weird and slimy. When I saw what it was, I instinctively jumped back. An eye. I can't say if it was human or from an animal, as I'd never seen one out of its socket, but it definitely looked real. No matter how much I rubbed my hands against my pants, I couldn't get the feeling off. That's when I noticed a guy watching me from a window next to the door. He said something which I couldn't hear through the window, but he looked angry. I got ready to leave quickly when the door opened.
"Hey, wait!"
When he passed the branch, he looked at it with disgust in his face. "Are you Julian?" I asked. He nodded and came dangerously close. I couldn't help but notice that his eyes had the same brown color as the one I'd just touched.
"You're new,"
he said. Yes. I looked around and tried to think of a reason to leave. While he looked normal, nice even, he was giving me an off vibe. He came even closer and started whispering in my ear.
It's too late for me, but you should try and leave.
I stepped back. Yeah. I was just about to, so...
No. Leave this neighborhood. Try and see if you can. Most of us get stuck here.
Now I was getting really nervous. Listen, buddy, I really gotta go and...
Do you remember your life before coming here?
I laughed. What kind of weird question is that? Of course I remember.
That's good, I guess.
He got a pack of cigarettes out of his back pocket and offered one to me. I shook my head. From the things he was saying, felt as if he was scared of something, but he spoke in such a calm way.
Do you see the window above mine here? With the black paint? They have someone trapped in there. He cries all night long. The other day I went up to check on the people there. I really shouldn't have.
Why? Now I was really asking out of curiosity.
It's hard to explain to normal people. They are broken humans or something like that.
He was talking like a crazy person, but the weird thing is that he seemed really genuine, maybe a little traumatized. Okay, listen. I was speaking with a really loud voice now, and people started looking out of their windows.
No, you listen.
Julian interrupted me again.
Is there an attic in your house? Or a basement? If there is, you might want to look at it. Or not. Might be better to stay delusional. Makes it easier.
I just moved here and had already met 3 eccentric neighbors. Still, nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to discover. The following afternoon, I went down to the basement of my house. The door was locked, but one of my keys fit the lock, which eased my mind a little. There couldn't be anything that bad waiting for me if I was allowed down there. In reality, though, it was absolutely horrific. Linda simply didn't care if I saw it. When I opened the door, I looked into the darkness, but quickly found a light switch at the top of the stairs. Still, the light was quite dim and it took my eyes a bit to get used to the light. The basement was one surprisingly big room, twice the size of my apartment, and filled with at least a dozen fridges. The big ones that you see at the supermarket with glass tops. And inside of them were organs. I almost wished that this was about organ trafficking, but it got so much worse. I walked up to one of them and inspected it. There was a heart inside, which, I swear, was beating. And yes, I realized that's impossible, but that's not even the worst part. The heart had all these flesh lumps, some small and some really big. My stomach started turning, and my brain was shouting to get the hell out when I heard someone coming down the stairs.
Not everyone comes to live here. Some come to die.
I heard Linda say. She laughed when she saw my frightened face.
Oh, not you, dear. You belong here.
I was freezing and sweating at the same time. What are the... I don't understand. Why are they growing?
Well, humans sometimes die, and when they are still fresh, we take whatever we can from them. We can make new ones out of the individual parts.
She grinned like a proud child. New ones?
New humans.
My stomach kept turning. I wouldn't be able to keep it in for long, but I also didn't want to puke in the room of growing organs. I had to look away. But how? She frowned.
There are many different ways to make a human. It's not all sex or science. We make sure all conditions are right, and then we pray. We do it our way, the way we were taught.
I swallowed. Taught by whom? She rolled her eyes as if I just asked the stupidest of questions.
The one who takes care of all of us. He is our leader, and the leader of many more communities. Don't worry. You'll meet him soon enough.
That's the last thing I wanted. This was entirely and absolutely absurd, but she seemed so sure. This woman was insane. She probably killed people and experimented with their organs. Of course, no humans grew out of that. I knew I needed to get out of here. but I couldn't let her see how freaked out I was. So I kept asking questions. But how does it make sense? You kill one person and make a new one out of them. Why not use existing people and...
This way, we can make more. A brain makes a new one. A heart makes a new one, and so on. The more substance we have, the more different creatures we can create. They all serve different purposes. You see that by their looks. Some look just like you and me. Others are far more uncanny. Usually the one made out of hearts or livers. Don't ask me why. But don't worry, we keep them hidden.
She shrugged.
Anyway, you don't need to know every single detail. You know, I almost feel like you're using me, pressing information out of me, because you know I am lonely and like to chat. It is very cheeky and manipulative. I don't like it one bit being used.
Oh, no. I'm just curious. That's all. I believe you are a very important part of this community.
Sure as hell I am.
She looked away, but I could tell that she was slightly flattered.
You know you don't need to act all high and mighty just because you forgot.
Forgot what? Linda smirked.
That you came to life here? Grew out of a magnificent brain. One that our leader brought us himself. You are one of our most excellent copies, Mayra, and we are so glad you found your way home.
I stayed silent.
You can go now, girl. I can tell that you're too much of a princess to help with my work.
I didn't need to hear more. I jumped up the stairs and went through the door. As soon as I stepped out, I started running. Out of the neighborhood, I thought, but I didn't even try. Instead, I ended up at Julian's doorstep. He saw the look on my face and knew immediately.
You can't leave. Not as long as they don't want you to.
Yeah, figured that one out. I bit my lip and looked around. I almost didn't dare to say those next words. Is it odd that I don't feel bad about that? I mean, I kept trying to get out, but when I couldn't, I wasn't really disappointed. It's like I belong here.
Yeah, I know.
He interrupted me.
I feel the same way.